pick in the NBA draft.
I know I'm ready for this moment. It's just about going out there and making the most of it. Every year I watch the draft and seeing the number 1 guy go by and wanted to be in that person's shoes.
Oh my goodness! That's ready. A human highlight reel.
We are coming to you live from Brooklyn. It's draft day, friends. Are you ready to see some dreams come true? I caught up with G League sensation and top 5 projected pick Jalen Green. That conversation's coming up. And hindsight is 2020, but we're going to look back at the 2018 draft. How should it have gone? We're counting down the boldest draft day fits ever as well, so don't go anywhere. An action-packed jump starts right now.
Welcome to The Jump, presented by Credit Karma.
That's right, we are in the Big Apple for the draft. It's just in 5 hours here at Barclays Center, home of the Nets, and that's where we are as well. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols. I'm alongside our NBA draft insider, Mike Schmitz.
Mike.
And Mr. 2003 first-round draft pick, Kendrick Perkins. You know, I'm usually out here bragging about your championship ring, but I like that today I get to brag that you were part of one of the best draft classes we have ever seen.
Ooh, preach about it. Right? Look, Rachel, look, we're just getting started on the jump. The gospel don't have to come out this early.
There you go. We got so much jump for you today, too. Richard Jefferson is going to join us later in the show. We're going to have a red carpet special for you coming up later in the afternoon on the network. But now, with the latest on all the movement heading into the draft, joining us right now, our ESPN NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, welcome back. And just in the last hour and a half, you tweeted that the Pistons have landed on Cade Cunningham for their pick, barring an unexpected trade. So this has been a little bit of a process all week. What ultimately sealed their decision?
Rachel, Troy Weaver, Detroit's general manager, and their front office came to New York yesterday and visited with Cade Cunningham and sat down and talked to him again and left even more confident that this was the player that they would select. They met again this morning and talked through it as a staff, and I'm told they informed Cade Cunningham of their decision early this afternoon that he would be their number 1 pick, obviously barring a trade, which is always possible until a team puts that name in and selects the player. But this was a real process, and Detroit really looked hard at Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, and there was a lot of back and forth on this, and I don't think it was about anything that they didn't think Cade Cunningham was. It spoke to, I think, just how impressive this group is, how much potential both Mobley and Green have to be stars in this league.
Well, I will tell you that on the way over here, Kendrick Perkins and I had a meeting of the Troy Weaver fan club, just how smart he is at making personnel decisions. So I know that the Pistons organization has good faith in their leader there. You mentioned also that earlier today that there was a lot of conversations about teams trying to move up, making trade offers. What is the latest intel making the rounds with the draft closing in?
I just don't think there's a scenario, or I think right now a realistic scenario where anybody moves out of the top 3. Just because no matter how many picks somebody might give you, no matter what the player might be, it is rare to have this kind of star potential at the top of the draft. And, 5 nickels don't equal a quarter, and there's some quarters at the top of this draft. And so I think right now, I think Oklahoma City, because of all the assets they have, they can continue to knock on the door. But if you're Houston or Cleveland, the idea of moving up 1 spot and having to give up a lot to do it, or move up 2 spots, it doesn't make sense when the player you're going to get, has all-star potential. May turn out to be, there's a legitimate case to be made that any of those 3 could become, the best player in this class. So I think 1, 2, and 3, I think they stay. We'll see with Toronto at 4. A little different there. They're in a different place than the other 3 organizations in terms of, they're a team that expects to be back in the playoffs next year, maybe even host a first-round playoff series, with the right moves this offseason. And even then, I still think it's hard to imagine Toronto parting with that pick.
Now, there were multiple teams that have multiple picks in this draft tonight. Which teams do you expect to be the busiest that we're going to be saying their names enough? Are these teams that are going to keep their picks or move those picks around?
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Rachel. Kind of teams closer to the middle of the first round, New York, Oklahoma City, for example, who have a couple picks within the same vicinity. There's a lot of talk with both of them, moving up, moving down with one of the picks or both, trying to package picks to move up. That's not easy in this draft. Teams are really certainly holding on to them, especially around the top 10. And you saw Memphis move in and get number 10 from New Orleans. New Orleans paid a steep price to get off the money that they did in the trade with Bledsoe and Steven Adams. So I think you'll certainly see movement on the board. Teams will wait to see if their player hits a spot, 13 with Indiana. If Indiana maybe doesn't get the player they would want at 13, that's a team that could move back or maybe get like a young, maybe another young player and a pick. Somebody they could plug right into their lineup and then move back a few spots. That's certainly a possibility.
All right. Well, now what all of NBA Twitter wants to know, Woj, I have to ask you, are you working on any new active verbs for when you are breaking picks tonight? Because it has become one of the most entertaining parts of the draft, my friend.
Rachel, I'm gonna try to keep it very simple. That's my entire goal for tonight. I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as I can. I've taxed my brain enough.
I think that's a fabulous idea. Woj, thank you so much. We will talk to you and see you throughout the night.
Okay, see you over there.
Thanks. All right, guys, we want to talk a little bit about Cade Cunningham. Of course, he established himself as the consensus #1 pick. And Mike, you said that he would be the top prospect if he had entered last year's draft as well. When is the last time you saw a perimeter prospect that you rated as highly as Cade?
Luka Doncic is the only one that I can remember in the last decade. And I would say, I think that Cade Cunningham is the second best perimeter prospect in the last decade. Okay. And listen, I was incredibly high on Luka Doncic just because of the magic that he had with the basketball. Maybe the most accomplished prospect we've ever seen at that age. I mean, being a EuroLeague MVP at 18 years old, 19, I mean, that's just ridiculous. So to say that Cade is going to be that, I think would be unfair to him. But I would say that Cade is arguably a more complete player. Like, you want to play him off the ball, he can play off the ball. You want to play him on the ball, he can play on the ball. He can play out of the post. He can defend. Like, he has zero holes in his game. And so I think, the combination of his Luka Doncic-like ceiling and his incredibly high floor speaks to the type of prospect that the Detroit Pistons are getting.
Well, I'm going to go with LeBron James. I'm going to go 2 decades
You're going back.
Yeah, I'm going way back. Since we're comparing this to 2003 draft, I'm going with LeBron James. And just to Mike's point, he's the most complete player. When you look at their size, right? LeBron James, 6'9", 225 pounds when he came out of high school. Cade Cunningham, 6'8", 220 pounds. Versatility, right? You look at him on the offensive end, he has really zero flaws. Now, can he get better? Absolutely. But he could take you on a low block. He could face you up. He has great enough handles to create for his own. And also, by the way, he's great at making others around him better. And on the defensive end, he could guard 1 through 5. He has that size. He has that motor. He has that mentality. And when you look at LeBron James' numbers his rookie year, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I believe that Cade Cunningham could do that. Now, he's not athletic as LeBron James is, but he's athletic enough. And so when I look at this guy, Cade Cunningham, this kid, the future is bright, and he reminds me a lot of LeBron James, but he still has a lot of work to do.
Well, and that's true of all of them, right? You look at LeBron's track through the NBA. You look, you're just talking about Luka Doncic. He's still trying to advance through the playoffs, right?
True.
So even if a guy is a Luka Doncic, even if he turns out to be something even close to LeBron, which is, one of the top 3 players of all time,
ever,
it's going to take a while to get there. Are we going to have a Kareem discussion? We need to have a Kareem discussion.
We're not going to do that today, Rachel.
Because I will be happy to stand in for Kareem.
There you go.
Just being in that conversation. I don't put them in an order. I just like to say top 3. And y'all can argue about what order they're in, but let's not forget that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar belongs in that group. Let's move on, though, to this group. Mike, one of the things things that I have found so interesting that you have said over and over about this class is that there are actually 3 number 1 caliber picks. Can't remember the last time, maybe Perk's draft class,
there you go,
when we were talking about that idea. And of course, you mean Cade, you mean Jalen Green, you mean Evan Mobley. So once we get past that group, who is, I would say, I don't know, kind of the number 2, even though we're now to number 4?
I think it's Jalen Suggs. And honestly, I feel like we could be giving him a little more credit throughout this pre-draft process just for what he did at Gonzaga. I mean, you don't see kids 19 years old, young men, and come in and be arguably the best player on one of the best teams in college.